What's going on, my drama romance type of people? Thank you for joining us on Cinema Recap. So today, strap in, because we're going to check out The Time Traveler's Wife. Spoilers ahead. We start off with mom and son, living life happily, we assume. The mom's got a pretty good voice, and her son seems to think he needs some work. Everything seems to be going well, but then, things have to get weird at some point. Mom sees an out-of-control vehicle ahead and tries to avoid it, but like most movies, we have a tragedy. What happens next is a little unexpected. The kid starts to disappear like Thanos snapped his fingers, let alone a kid. Also, why is he naked? Now he disappears again, but he's where he started. Poor little Timmy. Apparently his name's Henry. How does this guy know that? Turns out, he's actually Henry, but all grown up. Time travel. Yeah, this is for sure gonna cause some kind of emotional trauma. First the car accident, then he dissolves into thin air and reappears in the past for like 30 seconds, and then poofs back into his normal time just to cause the car accident that kills his mother, and we see that every movie has to have a tragedy. Now we've got Henry, all grown up, in the buff, at a library. Does he look familiar? Also, isn't that a paradox? Like the #1 rule of time traveling? He brings back some super old looking books. It seems like time traveling works up an appetite of bacon and potatoes matched with coffee and some, well, that's not cream. Must be a tough time at Christmas for our friend Henry. Santa's probably working overtime because he's looking a little late. Henry likes to keep fit, and he apparently works at the library. Good thing you didn't get caught in the buff. A pretty young woman named Claire is at his work and recognizes him right away. She's looking pretty familiar too, something about a notebook, misty eyes, I don't know. He must mean something to her. I don't think there's really a normal when talking about time travel. Looks like she knows more about him than he does at the moment. Man, what a lucky guy, having a girl ask him out. It's probably really inconvenient that he's naked when he time travels. People are gonna think he's a creep. Well, or a thief. And that's one way to avoid being arrested. At least he made it in time for his date. Henry's really bounced around a lot. In case you haven't noticed, that's gonna happen frequently, so be prepared. 6 years old? That's a little awkward. Oh yeah, I'd be drinking after I heard that too. That's unfortunate. Dr. Kendrick said drinking makes Henry time travel. Who's Dr. Kendrick? If you haven't met him, he can't tell you not to drink, right? Claire implies that she and Henry have met on numerous occasions. He also can't help but return to similar places in time. She's getting a little chummy quickly, and he's not sure about it. Then she tells him that she's been in love with him for her entire life. That was a rather quick segue, and apparently she's ready to just skip all the small talk. Maybe we shouldn't keep bringing up how much younger he is. Seems a little weird. What is this? A picnic? Oh look, it's cute little Claire. She's about to meet her future husband for the first time. Yeah, meeting a naked adult man in the woods is a good reason to go to your parents. I know there's nothing nefarious, but there's something very strange about meeting your wife when she was 6 and you're like 40. Thankfully, he's younger later. Time travel's a little too much sometimes. She wanted him to prove that he's a time traveler, so he does a fun little magic trick and makes himself disappear. The next morning after their fun fling, Claire does what every normal person does and goes through his medicine cabinet. She talks about how his older self was her perfect guy. He describes to Claire what it's like to time travel, saying that you get dizzy and your hands and feet fall asleep. Hate that feeling. They end up going to Claire's for dinner and wine, like real grown-ups, and the guy, Gomez, seems a little jealous. Henry thinks it's a good idea to just casually look through Claire's diary like a dummy, and ends up getting caught, of course. Nice recovery, Henry. When Gomez leaves to head home, he sees some commotion on the street. It's a dude wearing a frilly pink blouse and tiny shorts fighting off some other dude. Uh-oh. Henry leaves and Gomez follows, wanting to know what's going on. Henry decides that he might as well tell his future longtime friend what he really is. Of course, Gomez says what anyone would probably say in this same situation, and that he's full of it. But that's when Henry does his cool little magic trick and disappears again. It's pretty handy, and one way to shut people up. Gomez stops by Claire's place the next day. Clearly, he hasn't slept too much and thinks he's hallucinating. That's a normal response to witnessing a person frickin' disappear into thin air. Claire lets him in on the secret that she knows as well. He probably should have expected that. There goes Henry stealing again. Those are things a naked time traveler just has to do. It's his mother. He compliments her voice. Apparently she sings professionally. Too bad he never learned to. He begins to tell her some stuff that might sound strange, but she seems to take it well. What a wholesome moment on the subway. Looks like the people are the reason that this gift takes him to certain times. I hope he's figured that out by now. Henry goes to see his dad to ask for his mother's rings for Claire. His dad is looking sad and washed up, also a little angry. He resents Henry for not preventing his mother's death, and probably a number of other things, because our man didn't have it hard enough. His dad's gotta be a jerk too. Henry pulls off a unique proposal with her still in bed. Not crying, you are. Now they're getting married, and are at some fancy estate of her parents. Her dad's the typical fancy rich dad, shooting discs with shotguns and asking Henry to go hunting with him. Okay, Henry, that's a weird thing to say to your future father-in-law. Looks like dad came after all. Wait, so it seems like stressful events might trigger his time travel attacks, so it only makes sense that… Right, they had to see this coming. Now what? Gomez is trying to stall like the great best man that he is. Is that Henry? I guess that's one way to look at it. I'm with Gomez. The hair's pretty noticeable. Claire's looking great and definitely not complaining about distinguished older Henry at all. After all, he was her perfect man. Yeah, I'd be confused if I was her dad too. Looks like younger Henry's back in time for their first dance. Don't the lovebirds look happy? That's one way to break in the wedding bed. And just like that, he's gone again. Dang. Crap timing every time it happens. Now he's back at Claire's childhood meadow that she always met him at. Again, so awkward. We go from having a wedding to seeing his wife when she was 6. Little Claire's so jealous. Too bad she doesn't know that's exactly who she married. Life carries on and Claire keeps having to turn off showers and clean up plates after he's disappeared. Aw, Christmas by herself. That's sad. And it looks like she's starting to get tired of it. She's giving him a hard time, but it's not exactly his fault. But who can really blame her though? Henry's feeling bad, and to make up for it, he decides to find out the winning lottery numbers and gives her the ticket. You're damn right that's not a downside. Is this the first time he's gambled? Well, Claire can't say no to $5 million. Man, Henry's a realtor's worst nightmare. Just walks into a house and declares that, nah, it's not the one, in the first 30 seconds. At least he knows what he's looking for. Everything seems to be going great, so you know something wild's about to happen. Another future Henry shows up, coughing and shaking on the floor with a bullet wound. Makes total sense with dropping in and out of places nude and stealing people's clothes. Also, if Claire's bestie didn't know about Henry's condition, well, she knows now. Everyone's shook, especially Henry. I mean, who wouldn't be? Claire starts mentioning that she's never seen Henry older than 40-something. Well, that's not good. She's been pretty hopeful, thinking that maybe he just stops traveling. Did she not see what we all saw back there? Then she drops a bombshell. Apparently, she also thinks it's time to see the good Dr. Kendrick. Not surprisingly, the guy thinks that Henry is screwing with him, making our time traveler a little annoyed. Claire's eating at some random diner and starts bleeding. That's not good. The couple share their loss and your narrator gets something in their eye. Henry's concerned that the baby traveled out of the womb, which is very bizarre, but possible. Henry goes back to Dr. Kendrick, who continues to stay a critic until he mentions the burger grant. Well played, Henry. Kendrick finally decides to run some tests on him, which helps to prove Henry's point. Everyone always says the same thing. I guess Kendrick's a believer now. They want to help Claire carry a baby, but she keeps losing it over and over. Is it Henry's fault? Maybe it's no one's fault, but it sure sucks. Henry thinks the answer to this is to have a vasectomy so that she won't keep having miscarriages. That's rough. She's gonna be mad when she finds out. So Henry travels again to the meadow, seems to be a popular spot, and he kisses Claire when she's 18. When he comes back to his normal time, Claire's pissed. She's tired of feeling lonely and now she's angry about the vasectomy, blaming him for falling in love with him. I don't think Henry fully thought that one through. It seems that even when Claire needs space from her own husband, she can't make it happen. Now she gets to help the younger version of him stay out of the cold. I see a loophole with the vasectomy here. She can always just find a younger version of him, bada boom, bada bang. Hang on, is this cheating if it's with your husband? Well, at least this pregnancy seems to be going along smoothly. You know, until he disappears again. Henry, you've really got to figure out this trigger. Now you're in an animal exhibit. He does the usual, find some clothes and figure out what to do next part of time traveling. That's when someone recognizes him. Daddy. Well, isn't that heartwarming? Alba. Not one of the names they were throwing around before he left. It looks like she's a traveler too. Prodigy, huh? At least she's got it mostly figured out. Things seem a bit off though. She's happy to see him, but it's pretty obvious that something bad happens to him. Well, looks like our guy only has 5 years left then. Bummer. I wouldn't think he'd like to know about his death. Isn't that like another time traveler taboo? Oh well, Henry likes to live on edge. Alba says her mom is sad, and the teacher calls her back to the field trip. Probably a good idea before they call the cops on him for talking to little girls. He goes back to his own time and tells Claire that they name her Alba. Now our happy couple are parents. Isn't she cute? Looks like time passes pretty quickly again. Geez, 5 years already. 2 daughters. The same daughter playing with her older version? Of course it's freaking weird, Henry. Young Alba seems to have an idea that something's coming. That's pretty heavy for a 5-year-old. Claire wants to know what's gonna happen. Oh man, I can see where this movie's going. The sadness is too much. Now that Claire knows, she realizes that it probably has to do with the shot version of him that poofed into the hallway. Henry's suffering doesn't seem to end there, and he does his little disappearing reappearing thing, only this time he's got a frozen foot. Poor guy can't catch a break. Alba tries to help him learn how to control it. I don't think that it worked, honey. Your dad's not as talented as you. Now, he's outside his own house, in the snow, watching his own death. Now he's back again. The jumping is exhausting for me. I can only imagine how it is for him. They do super cute family things. You know, he's got to make the best of the time he's got left. They listen to Grandma singing at the opera, another wholesome family memory. Henry calls Gomez outside, clearly wanting to say something important. He's doing the whole "you've been a good friend, I'm about to die" speech. I guess he's not going to tell him about it, but he witnessed the shot version of Henry in the hallway too. Now it's Claire's turn to find out. How is someone supposed to handle this? I'd say pretty much this stuff is uncharted territory. Well, Henry, at least you were a good husband and a dad when you were there. He's in the snow, and there's a deer. Ah, man, didn't expect that. Claire's dad shoots him on accident? The man doesn't look like a freaking deer. Shot's as good as Dick Cheney's. We unfortunately know what comes next. The cool thing about being a time traveler is that there's always a chance that a version of him is just blipping around time. How has her dad not wondered where all of his clothes were going over the years? Claire runs to see him. Who's cutting the onions? Come on. Run, Claire, run. I swear if he disappears before she gets to him, at least she got to see him again one last time. It's truly bittersweet. But maybe there's a chance to see him again. And that's a wrap on The Time Traveler's Wife, produced in 2009 by New Line Cinema, Plan B Entertainment, and Nick Weschler Productions. So let me ask you, did Claire ever get to see Henry again? Why don't you leave your answer in the comment section below with that hashtag Cinema Recap. If you're new here and you're feeling all of it, go ahead and hit a like and subscribe to the channel for more content. We're always here for you. Till next time.